All right. Good morning, everybody who is tuning in either live on LinkedIn or through the registered platform. I am joined by some industry veterans in our channel and our co-founder of Channel Program, Matt Solomon. I'm Caitlin Jopp, the VP of Community and Engagement here at Channel Program, and we are going to talk today about how to elevate your business travel game. We've gotten out of March, which was a really, really busy event season. It seems to not be slowing down for the rest of the year. So I think this is a timely topic to talk about how we can make our business travel as comfortable as possible. To kick things off, I'll let our guests introduce themselves. So Matt, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, and before we do the introductions, I will put this post up. We are not professional financial advisors or legal advisors. The information shared during this webinar is for educational purposes and should not be construed as personalized financial or legal information.
Yes,
just
we
getting
will
that
not
out
be
there.
You're covered.
For the copious amount of travel that maybe
there could be some blurred legal lines that are talked about, depending on how invested you are in really gaming the systems. So Matt Solomon, co-founder, as Caitlin mentioned. So but yeah, let's kick it around the room. Alec, we'll go to you next.
Alex Sanders, VP of Business Development at B-Boy.
And my name is Kelsey Blankenship-Lackland. I am the Channel Development Manager at CyberQP. And I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, which I feel is the most central and perfect place to be for this kind of job. So
yeah, so Matt is out of, I think Austin is your home airport. Alec, I'm not sure if where's the New York State that county?
So it depends. If I'm flying with domestic flight, I usually do Albany. If I am flying international, I usually do JFK because I hate the little puddle jumpers out of like DC and Philly and stuff like that. They always end up having the issues and delays and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't know Albany had its own airport, so that's kind of cool. And then my main airport is Victoria, British Columbia. It is the tiniest airport on the planet. You literally only have to show up 5 minutes before and you can walk like right through to your gate, which is lovely. But for any type of travel, it's everybody's on this call's worst nightmare.
Yeah,
my expenses, so he knows.
There's a humpback whale that she has to jump on and get off to get off the island. Texas is a great, to your point, Kelsey, Texas is a great. Dallas is better than Austin though, because Austin's still considered a secondary city from an airport's perspective. Yeah. So
doesn't Austin close down at like 7:00 at night? Like that's pretty much like the last flights, 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, they're working. They've got some pretty big expansions happening, but yeah, it's not as good as Dallas by any means.
So. I will say, Caitlin, I did see I think a smaller airport. I flew out of Napier, New Zealand, and our bags got dropped off in the back of a tractor.
Oh no, that's the exact same thing that happens here. So it's probably very, very similar. A little like truck that would hand you produce is who takes your bags at Victoria Airport.
Yeah.
I do want to just quickly before we dive into this, make note that Paul Redding was also supposed to join us, he's going to be greatly missed because that guy has travel on lockdown. But he has caught the road warrior plague. So he is unfortunately not able to join us today, but he will be greatly missed. So let's kind of like dive into it. Are the three of you part of any loyalty programs currently?
Can I ask a question before we to give this panel credibility?
Okay.
And by the way, to all the people listening along, like make this as interactive. We're all friends. We're all friends on this thing. So let's make it as interactive as possible and certainly ask questions or add your own anecdotes. But to give credibility to this group, since entering the channel, how many physical events have you gone to approximately? Kelsey, you're the newest, so let's go to you first.
Yep. I have been doing this since January 2021. So I just passed 3 years, and I recently counted. I have done 83 in-person events in that time.
Wow, that's a lot, especially in that time period, considering 2 of the years were COVID for the most part.
Yeah, I only did 8 events my first year. The rest have all come since then.
All right, Alec.
So I joined the channel in 2011 at Artask, some time at Datto, and then most of my travel has been at BVoip and Datto. Total, I think I'm around like, so I added it up on my average per year, which is about 60 events. So that comes up to right around like 450 because I picked up the Artask years, and then I subtract 60 from the total for 2020, obviously not being, I got like one trip that year. But my numbers are padded a little bit with 21 and 22 because we had Channel Strong, and that was 40 cities right there for each of those years. But those years, I would say instead of doing 60, I probably was closer to like 80 events, 90 events, just because those were 40, and then we have all the normal industry stuff we do, plus B-Boy partner events and everything else.
Gosh. Well, you're definitely going to beat all of us, but but you've been in the channel the longest. Caitlin, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I feel like I peaked at Aavik for sure. I was doing probably like 40 events a year globally with them. And then, so that would be 40 times 3, 120. Then I probably did like 15 or 20 with IT Glue for like the year and a half that I was there. I'm probably like pushing like 200-ish. We are going to confirm this number this weekend because I am going to clean out the box that has all of my conference badges in it. So I will be able, I've kept every single conference badge that I've ever attended. So I'll be able to get like strong, solid numbers probably for Monday.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think I peaked definitely. I definitely peaked at when an ID agent. So 2018 was kind of my first foray into the channel. So I think I peaked at 45 to 50 that first year. But I would say I'm probably 220 would be an approximate guess at this point. So quite a bit for a pretty short period of time in the channel, minus the 2 COVID years. So yeah. So just point being, we've all traveled a lot. So yeah, there's lots to have discussion around. I want to come back to Caitlin, you had that first question about common mistakes. I want to come back to that one.
Okay.
I want to go to the other one first, which is how can travelers identify the best cards for earning points, based on travel preferences and spending habits? And Alex, since you're the veteran, why don't we start with you? How did you identify where to start?
So I think there's two halves of it. And depending on your expense structure, right, for the vendors on the line, if you can use your own credit card, more power to you. If you're an MSP, utilize this because it's free vacations for the rest of your life. But I think the first thing for me was, picking my airline and which airline am I really which airline do I feel I have the best experience on? Because I flew them all in like the first year and really related back to Delta, locked in on that and kept with it. So I got the Delta Amex Platinum, and I only did the Platinum because the Reserve was like another big jump up, and I have another credit card that I use in collaboration with it that gets me a lot of the benefits that would have come with that one, which is the regular Amex Platinum. That's like kind of regarded as like the number one travel card. So high annual fee, but if you're traveling more than, I'd say like 5 times a year, it's definitely going to pay off.
Yeah. How about you, Kelsey? Where did you start?
I started by asking Jimmy. Jimmy Hatzel, Larry Metter, and honestly, Alec even are kind of the first people I hit anytime I have any kind of travel questions. But also Reddit, it has been a great resource. Just people have put so much work together on just laying out comparisons. Because otherwise, for me personally, I'm just going on the websites and being like, okay, this one does this and this one does this. And like, so using my resources of my colleagues who have done far more than I have has been really beneficial for me.
Nice. Caitlin.
Oh, and sorry, my chosen airline is American Airlines, since Alex shared his.
So I had a company credit card when I was at Aavik, but being in Toronto, I was I used YYZ, so Toronto Airport. So it was really easy to be like loyal to Air Canada because it was a hub there. Since moving back to Vancouver Island, I cannot be loyal to any airline. So I have no status at all anymore. The status life was really, really great when I had it out of Air Canada. Lounge access, upgrades. It was absolutely amazing. Preferred seating all the time. and I am a Marriott loyalist if we're going to talk about hotels as well. So I'm still a Marriott loyalist. Here at Channel Program, we have corporate cards. So while we are Marriott loyalists, I still seem to get Kevin's perks sometimes, which is really nice because we have the Platinum Amex for that. Because I'm not able to be loyal to an airline here, I literally just have to take whatever is the cheapest and the quickest to get where I am. So we have WestJet, Air Canada, Alaska out of the airport here, and then like Air North if you want to get like really boutique about it. And so I have a cashback credit card. So anything I put on my own credit card, I actually just take the cash for because it's too hard. It's too hard here.
Yeah. So for myself, at least on the we were using Southwest because this was when I was in Maryland, and Baltimore is just a hub, and Southwest is like, to me, Southwest is the easiest to change flights at this like last second. Maybe the other airlines have caught up finally, but for a while they just made it so easy. But I think couple things I'd point out, because Alec, you brought up understanding the policies of your company, like, and you as an individual have to decide. I pushed hard, like when I had ID agent, I was like, if I'm traveling this much, I want the perks, like, because I gave up a lot of my life to be on the road to do what we're doing, and I think Kevin at first didn't, wanted things on corporate cards, and there's some legal reasons, somewhat, I guess, but anyways, I was allowed to use my card, and just got so many more points and whatnot. So definitely, if you can afford it, and and you can have, you understand how to make the payments and stuff, it's definitely worth having your own card if you're allowed to. But the other thing I think people, I guess this goes into mistakes a little bit, but even if you've chosen a main airline, so mine's Southwest, and you commit to a card, that doesn't mean you shouldn't sign up for the points for other airlines and things like that, because I think that is a mistake people probably make. I don't fly Delta that much, but I fly it every once in a blue moon, and those miles do add up. So that's definitely something to think about.
Touching on that too is code sharing. I don't think a lot of people understand that one or two, maybe three conglomerates own the entire airline industry. So there is a significant amount of code sharing in between. So like if I could fly Delta direct, I would 100 times over. Delta is a WestJet affiliate, which is the Canadian version of that up here. So I do try and favor WestJet as much as I can, even though the experience with WestJet is 300 times shittier than the experience with Delta. But same thing with like United. If you're a United loyalist, Air Canada up here, same thing, code share. And that code share actually saved me in like a massive layover that I got stuck in Germany on my way to Croatia for a WatchGuard event. A flight ended up getting canceled, and I had I think 10 hours in one of the German airports there, like Frankfurt, which is not a fancy airport by any means, if anybody's ever been there, but they had a Star Alliance lounge there. And with my status with Air Canada, I was able to go in and shower and have an actual relaxing experience instead of being airport hobo for 10 hours.
Yeah. And this goes back to that disclaimer. I have cards for everything, every type of travel. So this gets into whether you have a good credit. So again, not for everybody, but I have a Marriott, I have a Hilton, I have a Hyatt card even, because back when we were doing Data road shows, a lot of their shows were at Hyatts for whatever reason. So I just wanted to maximize, and I guess just to take a step back in case people don't understand. I know a lot of you guys are seasoned travelers, but when you stay at a Marriott and you use a Marriott card, the multipliers are so significant, whether it's Hilton or whatever it is, you get so many more points if you have the card. And that's why I have a card for every hotel for the most part.
And literally the goal is to just get lifetime status at Marriott. That's all you need. And then you can be a little bit
10 years of status.
Yeah. But again, downsides of being a Canadian is I can't even apply for a Marriott credit card.
You can't?
We don't have those up here.
Interesting.
Wow.
All right, so let's get in. We talked about one mistake. Any other mistakes that anybody can kind of throw out? Any other mistakes you see people making?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Oh, good.
No, you go first.
I was gonna say, I think that everyone feels like the lounges are like super unattainable, and I mean, from a company standpoint, we looked at it, and I just said to George, what are you paying for an average meal in an airport? Somebody gets a chicken salad and a beer on the way to a trade show. It's probably like $45, which I can bring someone into the lounge for $45, and they get as much food, as much booze, and whatever else they want. And some of them get way more, way more expansive, right? Some of the Centurion lounges now have spa services and all sorts of stuff. So, I think if, back to the credit card comment, the Amex Platinum gets you access to like 1,500 lounges around the world. It gets you access to all the Delta lounges if you're flying Delta. It gets you access to the Centurion lounges, which are pretty much most major airports now, and are really nice. So I think that's a huge mistake I hear all the time is people are like, yeah, I wish I flew a little more. I'm like, you don't have to fly that much. Like, if you're flying a couple times a year, it's probably going to pay itself off for the company, especially if you're tapping into the benefits that come with the card. I think that's the other part is people don't want to rack up, all the cards. But I'm sure, Matt, you went through there and you said, all right, because I'd say that's probably one of the biggest mistakes is people on the other end will get that card, eat the annual fee, and then never make it back up because they're not paying attention to all the benefits that come with it. Like the Amex comes with $240 a year in just streaming credit, $200 a year in Uber credit, $200 a year in airline fees. So, they quickly pay itself off.
I think
you made. Okay.
I think that is a mistake that a lot of people don't take into consideration because some of those higher cards that come with like lounge perks and stuff, the yearly fee is shocking sometimes. Like they're like $800 a year or whatever. But really, if you are traveling as much as we are, even having access to that lounge does pay itself off probably. Especially you're the king of lounges. Like you take advantage of the food and beverage in those. So.
I think, and Kelsey, we'll go to you in a sec. I think you made a really valid point though. Like if you're one of those people, if you work for somebody, for example, make the business case, which you did perfectly, Alec. You laid out because food is expensive. Rogue food is expensive on the road. So that's a really good way to like just prove out, be like, look, I can save you a bunch of money because of this. So Kelsey, what about yourself?
Well, first, I just thought of my standard airport meal. At this point, has become Cheez-Its, a Sprite, and Dramamine. And that was like $24 last week in the Chicago airport. I was just like, what is that? Like, this is what? It's not even hot food. Airport meals. A mistake I see people making is, especially in the role that I'm in, I'm helping other people book their stuff. Like, they're not typically on the road. And I tell them like, you should make an account with this. And it's like, oh, well, I don't travel enough. I don't care. I think that you should make an account. Even like my first year, we were at like 4 or 5 different kinds of hotels. I made an account with all of those. I will say mistake I made. I used my work email, I think, for Hyatt. And then once I no longer worked there, I could no longer get into that. So don't use your work email. And then you mentioned the credit cards, all that. Marriott actually has something with Uber where you get Marriott points for Uber XLs. And if you are anything like us, you're typically booking Ubers for large groups of people. So you're often booking XLs. So I have linked those accounts for those points as well. I think Lyft has one with somebody as well. But like little things like that are also just whatever. It all adds up.
I was going to say, there's so many of those. That's a big one. Like if you they're not well presented. The airlines are not great at kind of tapping into those or like really showing you those. They'll kind of blast them out when the partnership first happens. And then it's, 17 pages deep within your like login portal for your miles. But for instance, Delta, I connect Lyft. And then if I book a Lyft from the airport to the airport, it's like triple miles on the dollar. Same thing with the other good one that's not really well advertised is Delta Dining. So we all take people out to meals all the time. I get miles, a pretty good amount of miles per dollar spent at meals. If it's one of the restaurants that are in the participating area. So, I just pull up my phone, go to the website, type in the area that I'm in, and I can see all the restaurants, pick one of those for dinner, bring everybody there. And once you hit your 8th, I think that year, then it's like 11 points per dollar spent,
Right.
which is more than the credit cards are going to give you even. So, yeah, there's a bunch of those little ones that just aren't well advertised that if you kind of dig, you can definitely do some damage with.
I
Yeah, and
think
I wanna-
even Starbucks and Delta have one.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
That
That has
was
the new
pretty
one.
neat.
And I do want to come back to that because we have a question about lesser known. I do. Shame on you, Simon. You coming on to our webinar and trying to get a referral code here? Come on.
I
Simon,
respect the hustle.
I am literally applying for that credit card right now as we speak.
No, you use my referral, not his, Caitlin.
You do it.
What was I gonna say? Oh God, so many different directions. Dang, I had a common mistake. Oh, a mistake that people can use, especially as you're years into a credit card. You can and you have to look at how many cards you have and things like that for like specific to like Chase and whatnot. You can reapply to get the bonus stuff after a 2-year period. So don't get stuck with the same card. And I understand people don't want to close down cards for credit check purposes. As long as you're comfortable with your credit going up and down 10 to 20 points in whatever direction, you should 100% reapply for a card to get the bonus. I mean, I just did it recently with Southwest. I'm gonna get 80,000 points that I would never have gotten if I'd stuck with the original card I had. So definitely something to think about. But let's go to what are some of the lesser known ways to earn points and miles outside of the credit card bonuses. Alec, you already mentioned one, which is, well, you mentioned a few, I guess, the Lyft and stuff. Anybody else have any other ones that they want to mention? I have a couple, but
I'll throw out for Kelsey. American has the same dining program.
Oh, that's great to know.
Yeah, many of them do. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of good ways to do it. Definitely, there's also programs with like Airbnb has one. I know with Delta and I believe a couple of the other ones where every dollar spent on there. So I know some people do Airbnbs instead of host hotels because sometimes we all understand the host hotel is insane, and it's not always possible within budget. So that's another one. Some of the Marriott and all of those can also have similar kind of benefits. It's not just the airlines doing those. So it might be Marriott with Lyft or Marriott with, a dining program. So, I mean, I would heavily encourage you to spend a little bit of time and go into your portal. And if you look at like ways to earn miles, for instance, it's like the Delta tagline for it. And you go underneath it. And there's stuff like rental cars is another good one. Yeah. So if you're going to be on a trip, you can book your rental car through your airline, and it's going to give you points per dollar. So I know like flat rate, I instantly get 1,000 miles just from booking a rental car with Delta. And then I get money per dollar spent on top of that, or miles per dollar spent on top of that. So there's a ton of ways under there. I mean, I'll pop it up in the other window and let somebody else jump in while I'm looking that up.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for me up here, the one that I do take advantage of is Starbucks. And I think like DoorDash or Skip the Dishes has like an Aeroplan partnership. So every time I use those, which both are shamelessly often, that I get Aeroplan miles as well, which is a free program for anybody that wants to register for who's Canadian. And it adds up pretty fast through gas and groceries as well.
Yeah, and the a lot of the credit cards come with DoorDash subscriptions for a year. So I mean, you get, that is both a travel perk and a personal perk, obviously. Yep. Another one I wanted to mention, because I do see it, I probably see it in Marriott the most, is when you just log into the app, they'll just have these random promotional things about booking. If you book between these dates, you'll get extra points. But you literally you have to hit yes to it. It's not. I don't know why I know why they do it, but you're already a user of their thing and you're a frequent user, but you still got to click in and say, I'd like to take advantage of the promotion. So definitely keep an eye on any one of those like random promotions within the apps.
That reminds me of the Dosh app as well. It's not typically travel, but it's usually pretty good for food, restaurants and grocery stores even, and that's just a little cashback thing. But I like Dosh a lot.
I feel like cashback is grossly underrated.
I agree.
Sometimes. Yeah.
For spending money, please.
Oh yeah, that personal card that I have every November, I know I'm getting like a good chunk of money back. Pays for my Disney trips after IT Nation.
Oh,
There you
perfect.
go. It's a good plan. Yeah, I mean, I think I just threw the link in there for like the Delta one. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, and every airline should have a similar page that's going to let you know, like, here's the different ways you can kind of drum up miles. Um, I think that there's a lot of different programs out there that just aren't well promoted. Like Matt said, sometimes you just log in, it's on there. So like, I would encourage you to frequent your app. The other one I know, like on the Delta side, they have promotions as well, and there's just horribly buried. So like, I had to log into the actual. Has to be on a website, no phone. And then I have to go to like my Sky Miles page, and then there's a promotions tab underneath there. And sometimes it's really good. Like if you're somebody who's just getting started and they're seeing you're doing, couple good flights. Like let's say you just landed a job with a vendor and you're now traveling, they might tag you with, hey, fast track to the next level. So if you book 2 or 3 flights in the next quarter, we'll let you bump automatically to the next tier, which saves you a lot of time and headache and gets you all those nice perks.
Yeah, I think the general idea we're getting at here is knowing what you're signed up for. They make it.
And I've admittedly not done this, and I've thought about doing it, but I do think if you like want to be like super serious, and you're balancing multiple cards, creating a spreadsheet probably would be pretty effective, because it is honestly astonishing. Like one of the cards has like 18 different promotions, right? And it sounds so good when you sign up, right? It's all right, you get clear for whatever dollar, you get 50% off clear, you get TSA, you get all these things, but you definitely got to read the fine line, because even like I think like Hilton was an example of like where it makes it sound like it's $200 towards like hotel credits, but it's only once per quarter, so it's $50 per quarter, and you have to do it a certain way. It's definitely a very tricky way to try to get to the 200. So definitely make sure you read the fine print on that stuff too.
Yeah, and especially with airline credit cards and blackout dates, sometimes they come out and they're just like all these perks, but then you can't travel for 200 days of the year. You can only travel like in the middle of October or like the first week of January. So make sure that make sure you definitely check that out as well. There are some really great cards out there though that do promote no blackout dates, which I mean, speaking as a Canadian, there's a few. I think RBC Avion card has one that's like no blackout dates, which I've heard is like really, really good. Yeah, one of the things too, I think, can we still talk about things that I think are missed by travel? Yeah,
I think we're just everywhere at this point.
Everywhere at this point, I think TSA PreCheck, if you're Canadian Nexus, clear, completely underrated program, especially if you are traveling to anywhere like Las Vegas, Orlando, New York multiple times a year, because those airports are always insane when it comes to security check-ins. I cannot tell you how much time has saved being TSA PreCheck at Nexus. Like, I won't even travel with people who don't have it anymore. I will see you at the gate.
Yeah, I'll throw one more in there. Global entry. So when you go for pre-check, it's like $75, and global entry is like $15 more. It's worth it all day, and includes TSA pre-check. If you're gonna leave the country, even once in the next 5 years, it's worth it for the extra $15. That means you don't have to clear customs when you come back in. So when we just came back from NerdioCon, that was an absolute nightmare coming through Atlanta. I was with Paul Redding actually, and we were coming up, and Paul looked at me and said, "Oh no, I think my global entry just expired, and I have to complete the form." And I said, "Best of luck." And I left him because I had an hour layover, and I made it with time to spare. He texted me. He was sprinting to his gate, and I had enough time to get through, get to the lounge, grab like the grab and go food, and be sitting at my gate waiting to board. So I think those are crucial, especially if you're doing a lot of changeovers, and like when you get into international stuff. I mean, there's a couple of times where I've made major flights like Australia just because of the combination of like clear, TSA, global.
Yeah, that's definitely a peace be with you, sir, as you exit. Those are critical. One thing I was going to add about clear. I used to be the biggest proponent of clear. I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. Couple things. One, I think it's been oversold potentially at this point. It's never staffed. I will say this: it's airport by airport. it is still very useful in Las Vegas, Orlando, and Denver, and some of these others. It is absolutely useless in Austin. The pre-check goes so much faster.
Yeah.
But again, for any of us frequent people, it's still worth it because again, any 1 or 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times you get to skip that line, there's no better. Just even the feeling of skipping the line is worth it alone. So
yeah, I feel like every time I've seen Clear has always been super packed, and then like I'm in like TSA pre-check because it comes with Nexus, which is global entry, and yeah, I'm always like, what's the perk for this? I don't understand.
Yeah. And global entry, by the way, for people who are waiting for their interview, a lot of airports, not a lot, but some of the international airports, you can do an interview at, when you're arriving from a very certain country. You can do the interview there. So that could be a way to.
I feel like I was super lucky because after pandemic, I heard getting a Nexus card up here in Canada was like super, super crazy. I'm wondering, Simon's in the chat. He's Canadian as well. And maybe he can chime in. But yeah, I heard it was nuts. And then, so I've had mine for probably about like 10 years now. And it's like the one thing that I will refuse to let expire. Like I have auto renew all day long. But yeah, the global entry, they did just do for, if you do travel overseas more, like they said, paying that extra fee or whatever. I think it's more than $15 unless you guys have a different program than we do.
I think it's like $7. It might be like 25 at most because I think it's $100 for the application process, and then you just have to pretty much schedule your interview. And I think TSA is somewhere between like 75 and 85. So, yeah, no, I mean, I would say that same, back to that credit card discussion, right? Clear is included with that Amex Platinum. So, I mean, it's another one that's kind of like, all right, that's $179 a year if I don't have any kind of perk towards it. If you get a certain level of airline status, they actually do discount it. So I think if you're a Platinum for Delta, for instance, they discount it to $79. And then if you're Diamond, it's just included. So there's a couple different ways you can get that covered too.
Nice.
I have one thought on Clear. My best friend has always lived, post-college has lived out of state. And I used to travel just once a year to see her before I ever started doing this for work. And I was at an airport once and things were kind of packed. And I don't know, this guy was just like, you want to skip the line, like just come over here. And basically I found it all very shady after the fact. Once I found out that there was a charge involved with this that he did not tell me about. And I was still in college and did not have almost $200 to skip the line once. Since I've canceled it, I've just, every time I see them, I kind of sneer at them.
You got like pyramid schemed at the airport.
I know. I was just like, the line wasn't that long.
They do hard sell it. I signed up at MCO after IT Nation because I walked in and I just said, what in the hell? I cannot deal with this after 4 days of IT Nation with the sea of 700 people or whatever was in the multiple lines. And I saw the woman, she was like, fast over here. And I said, whatever, just whatever it costs, just do it.
I think mine was LAX because she was in
Orlando
California.
Airport stresses me out. Like it is, for how busy it is. I have no idea how you're still waiting like 40 minutes to get through security.
Okay, well, confession, I don't have pre-check.
Honestly, you gotta get it.
Are you being serious?
You're insane.
I don't understand. Wait, what?
I can't compute.
I'm ashamed to pre-check on this call.
Actually, Morgan and I have a whole podcast episode about this where like she found out I don't have it. The line's always longer than the regular, and like I don't see it.
No. You take all your stuff in your bag
earlier.
No,
my God.
You have to.
This is like
I'm asking you next event
where like an emergency alert just went off.
Yeah.
Like,
as a community, we have to come together.
Hashtag PSA ASAP.
Help us help
I will
you.
say, flying out of DFW, there are so many gates. I never have to wait. Even if it says like there's a wait, it'll be like 10 minutes and it's never that long. So I just, I haven't had the one flight that I've really needed it yet. So I don't have it.
I thought that would be like a prerequisite for this call today.
Well, you
man.
didn't do your vetting appropriately then.
Oh, Tara actually made a good point in the comments. She said, I travel with too many electronics to not have pre-check. So for any of you that are traveling with like equipment for your booth, absolutely, yes, we are going to get that trending. Absolutely, like a huge lifesaver. Like I've carried phones. I've carried, right now I'm carrying like one of those dual monitors that are all over TikTok. For like our booth presentation, and like that counts as another laptop to TSA. They don't care. So like if I'm going through normal line, I'm now taking out 2 laptops, any sort of liquids. I mean, taking off your
How
shoes.
many
It's a
of the
nightmare.
machines I run into now, you don't have to take your laptop out, and I never take my liquids out.
Maybe,
It's worth it,
maybe,
Kelsey.
Kelsey, are you sure you don't have it?
I'm positive. So when I was growing up, my grandma worked at Southwest Airlines. She has since retired, but so like I'm used to traveling like that with her. So I guess it's just always kind of just been like, this is what you do at the airport. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Fair
so
enough.
this whole conversation honestly started from when I was at an event. Hannah from Citricom was telling me she also did not have pre-check, and I was just losing it as we all were.
I love seeing
Second
people's
ago.
reactions when I tell them I don't have
But
it.
it's like, because it's like painful, because we know, that's not as painful as like well, it might be, but the points are the most important, I'd say.
Okay.
But so, especially for people who are maybe newer to traveling, and don't fully grasp, this might sound dramatic, but points can be like life-changing. Points are money. It's real money.
Yeah.
And so I want to go to the group. This was not a question I gave you guys in the pre-thing, but like talk about just an awesome either trip you got to take just because of points, or just some amazing experience you had because of points. Anybody have anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll say that like with all the time on the road, right? A lot of us have like a significant other at home, somebody who's probably not super pumped about you being on the road all the time. So at like the end of each year, being able to cash in miles and go somewhere fun is definitely like a reward for both of us, and definitely pays off. So like we've done Italy, we've done London, we've done a couple places in the U.S. I would say probably the Italy one was like the biggest one. And like I was able to cash in a bunch of miles, and we did the suites and the closing door and the lay flat and all that, and like just a great experience. And that's something that normally you'd look at that and you'd be like, I want to vomit looking at a $12,000 ticket. But in points that I earned from stuff that I didn't have to pay for in the first place, that's a great benefit. So it definitely lets you travel ways like you probably would never imagine doing, and it's even more so if you've got that personal card that you're tapping into for all of the expenses as well.
Yep. Kelsey?
Yeah. So 2 come to mind. The first being I actually went to Vancouver with my best friend back in December, and we were only staying for one night, and I booked us a hotel at a Marriott, which I was like, oh, I got the hotel, like, don't worry. And we got in, and they were like, oh, thank you so much for being loyal. They were like, we've upgraded you. We gave you late checkout. Here's this, do you want extra points or do you want free breakfast? They went through all of it, and I was just like, thank you so much, whatever. We walk away, and my best friend goes, what the hell was that? And I was just like, oh, like, I'm somebody here. So that was really funny. But trips wise, I used my miles and my points to go see George actually in Philly, and I went to a Cowboys Eagles game with him last year, and like that was something like just really cool. Other than food, I didn't pay for anything that week. The hotel, the flight, and the game, like that was a really fun experience to have, just to be like, hey, I slept in a couple uncomfortable beds for a few weeks and got some points out of it.
Nice. Before we go to you, Caitlin, we got a couple people chiming in here. So she said, Susie said, booking my trip to Spain with points. I assume she meant next week. And then Kelly said, my husband and daughter went on a yacht party with DJ Diesel, which might be Shaq, right?
Yeah,
Shaq.
During Lollapalooza on points, wasn't available to the public.
That is really cool.
And then Simon, cool. I just did Singapore. I would love to go to Singapore. Caitlin, how about yourself? Is there anything you've done particularly?
Last year, I finally cashed in on some of the points that I got when I was traveling with Avik, and it paid for my ticket to go to Italy for 2 weeks. And then with the Marriott points, I've been saving them up because I really want to go to Hawaii. I know for all the Americans on this is probably not really exciting, but Hawaii is on my bucket list, and it is so expensive with the exchange rate to
really
go.
Expensive.
So I've been saving up my Marriott points to like try and go for a few days because it's so cheap to fly from Vancouver. It's only like maybe $400 or $500, but once you get there, unattainable. So I've been saving for like the last 4 years for that.
So Caitlin, I don't know if you look at a map. Hawaii's not that close for us in the U.S. So even though it is a state, but it's still definitely a big deal, a big trip to go on for sure. For me, like, and Alec may have touched on this about the significant other. Like that's been the best thing for me, right? Because it sucks being on the road when you have a significant other. It's hard and whatnot. So for like international trips, we've really just been able to piggyback, and Michelle's joined me on a lot of those where she'll work during the time I'm working, and then literally the rest of the trip is on points, staying at hotels. And so we've gotten to do Paris, Barcelona, Sydney, Australia, basically for free on the back end, and we only had to pay for one flight out of pocket, or there was points associated to it. So just being able to take advantage of that. I mean, there was one time we stayed at like the Waldorf Astoria in Rome, like on a hill looking over Vatican City, which I would never have paid for with cash, but with points.
In the Paris one?
No, in Waldorf Astoria in Rome, like looking over Vatican City. Yeah. But all on points.
I'll throw one thing out there because I know Caitlin earlier touched on like not really having the best options for airlines. I know some other people are in similar boats. I saw Roddy earlier threw out the Capital Venture X, the Amex Platinum, the Chase Sapphire Reserve was also mentioned in the chat. Those are all ones that aren't specific to an airline. They're specific to actually the credit card company. So I mean, you could transfer those into a lot of them. And one thing I'll say that's really nice is if you are paying attention to it, similar to that kind of promotion thing we talked about earlier. Sometimes it'll be like, hey, it's a 2-for-1 right now to transfer to like Air France, and Air France might be your Delta partner, and so you could book a Delta flight. Different stuff like that. Like I know right now, for instance, Virgin Atlantic is doing flights that are, I saw 11,000 miles to go to London right now out of New York. So insane. I mean, you're talking like
Virgin is such a good airline too. I loved flying them in Australia. Yeah. I do have to say too, for anybody that's like new to the points game and is American, because again, it was very tailored to them, but I learned a lot from the points guy. And like, he does take everything to like the extreme. He is very much like, let's go to Dubai for free. And he opens up like 7 Amex cards. But like just like the smaller type of like tips and tricks on like the multiplying your points during like certain times of the year, like being able to like leverage like code shares and stuff like that in order to like maximize your trips and experience. He does have some really cool things, but definitely watch him slowly, because I watched like a bunch of videos of his, and like his spreadsheets and the way he does it is so overwhelming as well. But you can pull out some really good nuggets from him for sure.
Yeah, he's a good resource. Nerd Wallet is a good resource. There's some Facebook groups, just travel hack Facebook groups. So yeah, there's a million resources, and those I will say get into the more shady business of hacks.
Yes.
And some of them are pretty fantastic, pretty fantastic tips. Again, I will reiterate, we're not
I'll throw one out there, kind of go back to that like lesser known one. I got, you just reminded me of that. I went into one of those Facebook groups that was around Amex travel. And the one that they really threw back to was Rakuten, who's like the cash back or the points back for your travel. And they'll actually link up to Amex and give you Amex points for purchases. So when you look at stuff like, my Amex, I think when I started, it was like 4,000 for 80,000 miles. And I've seen them as good as like 5,000 for 100,000 or 120,000. But then they'll have ones that are like, if you buy 3 years of LifeLock, which is not a bad thing to have, especially if you're traveling and using your credit card all over the world. If you purchase that for 3 years, you're getting like 180% cash back. I've seen like 800% cash back. So they do crazy ones sometimes that are transferring miles back into your account. So like I'll regularly do like one of those a quarter, and that definitely cashes in really nicely.
Fair enough. All right, so I think we're at 45 minutes. I think we've definitely talked through points as much as one can in 45 minutes. But yeah, I mean, we honestly, Caitlin and I just kind of threw this together as really more just a fun thing. We all travel so much in this, not just the vendors, the MSPs. We see a lot of you on the road at multiple events. So yeah,
I think I'm going to do another one because I want to talk more about like the hacks for day-to-day travel. Like,
oh yeah,
hacking, the type of luggage and like carry-ons that we all use, and what people most forget versus like making sure that you like. I mean, I'm the type of traveler that I'll buy it when I get there if I forget it.
Well, so
get to a core list.
Yeah,
these are the things I cannot replace.
I'm the worst for
it. Next week.
So just a quick around the room to close it down. What are some things? I mean, what's a major thing you've forgotten? If you've forgotten anything when you're on your way to a conference, anybody?
So I am usually really good about like the everyday stuff. I did forget an Apple laptop charger once, and I was going to be on the road for like 3 weeks. So that was like a really shitty thing to have to call my boss and be like, can I expense this? And then I forgot my wallet at Nashville Robin Robbins last year, and I had to call Matt and Kevin and just tell them I had no money. And when I was on the ferry to Vancouver to catch my flight, and I called my mom, and she had to send me a picture of all of my credit cards so I could upload them to Apple Wallet. And then nobody in Nashville takes tap. Yeah. So that was a wild week for me. Luckily, I was with Cody Staley from Black Point, who happens to be one of my really good friends, and he paid for everything. Thank God.
And Kelsey, how about yourself?
Yeah, I can second the laptop chargers. I very embarrassing to have to ask for to expense. I currently have 3 laptop chargers because I have traveled without it. But it's nice. Now one stays at my desk, one stays in my backpack, and I've got a bonus. And then for me, I've talked about this before too. Random makeup, like either my makeup brushes or like an eyeliner, whatever. I just bought doubles of my entire makeup bag. And now I don't ever get somewhere without anything, because sometimes finding a CVS is not easy at events.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alec?
I'll definitely triple down on the chargers. Chargers are like just an easy one to do. And I think it's always because like I have a really long cord that's in my bag that I'll pull out sometimes because, you know, I'm doing something around the house and it's just easier to plug it in than pull a charger out of a place that's like normally set. Kelly did touch on Amazon lockers. I've definitely saved my ass more than a few times where like I'm flying into a city and I'll just quickly hit something from Amazon. The other one I'll say is I end up getting the cords from Amazon that have like iPhone charger, Android charger, and Apple Watch. That was the only reason that George had charge electronics last week in Australia, because he forgot all of his international chargers. And he was like, no, I'm fine. I just plugged it into the TV. And I was like, oh, that actually makes sense.
That's actually kind of smart.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely ways to save yourself.
For Apple users, like we all have a million cords and bricks. That's not the problem. Like when you forget your like Apple Watch charger in a hotel room, or you forget to bring that, and then those are actually like pricey to replace too. They're not cheap.
I've brought mine down to the booth for people to use. Like MSPs have been like, you have an Apple Watch, do you have a charger? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they're the worst
commodity.
An Apple Watch charger is not something you buy a second of on the road. It's not that important. But I've definitely, same thing, multiple computer chargers. I had to get Amazon overnight. My 2 most recent though, I've like, I don't know what the hell is going on with me in terms of travel, but one was more of like a local event. And so it was like one night and I just wasn't thinking. And I drove up with like a t-shirt and shorts, but I like forgot an actual shirt for the event. So
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a beer shirt. It would have been fine in the MSP with the MSP audience, and I could have just told the story and kind of made a joke of it. But I did go to like Target at 7 a.m. and got like a polo shirt.
Yeah.
My worst one was after that. Even like it just had that happen, and I just completely forgot my actual laptop. So went to a conference about my laptop. Luckily, it was one of those where I didn't. I mean, you can do so much on your phone at this point, but I didn't need it. But yeah, not I don't know what. It's like my travel game post-COVID has gone completely down the drain. I don't know what happened.
Luckily, you own the company, so not a big deal on the laptop front. But
Well, I didn't like buy a new laptop, but
that is one of my biggest fears is like forgetting something like that either at home or like in a hotel room. Forgetting.
Yep.
I have seen back on the Apple charger situation. If anybody in the chat has used the multi-chargers for Apple products, I would be really interested because there is one that like folds up into like a little cube that's like that big. And I think they have amazing reviews on Amazon, but I don't trust Amazon reviews at all. So
I have one of the ones that folds like 3 ways, so it folds into like a little square,
You do
and
have
then
that
it
one?
unfolds. Yeah, and it's like three.
Is
It's
it
like
good?
3 next to each other. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it charges my AirPods, my Apple Watch, and my phone. So like that's always.
I feel
That's
like I
always
need
my
to
thing.
invest in one of those.
yeah, I have that one. Or not the 3 one, but it's the Apple Watch and the iPhone. It works.
Yeah. So my toxic trait is that none of my devices are charged ever. Like my phone is teetering on 15% right now, despite just like sleeping last night. So like I also have a million of these, probably like 3 or 4 of these battery packs, which I also have gotten off of Amazon, and they are a lifesaver. But then of course, because I'm a toxic human being when it comes
Those
to
aren't
this,
charged.
those are not charged ever either. So
Yeah,
I finally did get one that has like a USB-C, so it can be the same one as my laptop charger. But the other ones that have the same charger as the iPhone, like never happening.
Yeah, and Susie mentioned had to ship a new TV via Amazon, and we used it. I think she wrote, "Oh yeah, we gave it as a VIP swag gift."
Yep.
That's literally what Channel Program does at every event. We just give away our TV.
Yep.
It's not worth
Did a good
shipping.
job of it, too.
Yeah. So, all right, we literally could go on for hours, but Alec, you have one more. You have one more comment?
I was just gonna. So I dropped the 3-way charger into the chat, and then I'm gonna drop one more that's just been a huge game changer for me with airline travel because I'm watching everything that's on the Delta TVs, and like I check every time, and they don't refresh faster than I fly. So I ended up getting and I'm sorry for the horribly long link. It's a airplane phone holder, so it clips into the seat.
I've seen this.
Yeah, and it holds your phone really nicely because you see every flight someone's sitting there like this with their phone trying to watch something.
You don't use the barf bag hack?
No, this is great. Honestly, this is awesome.
It's the barf bag hack. So if you take off the back of your iPhone and you put the barf bag like in there, and then you clip the other part of the barf bag in there, and it'll support your phone.
Speaking of hacks, and this has absolutely nothing to do with travel, but I just saw this on TikTok the other day. If you ever buy, like a rotisserie chicken, and then you have to like deep
in the bag.
Yes, in the bag.
It works so perfect.
It works so well.
Yeah.
Wait, for what though? I didn't know.
So like when you get a rotisserie chicken, you got to debone it.
Sure.
So you put it in like a 1 pound, like not a 1 pound, like a freezer bag, like Ziploc bag,
1 liter freezer
and you
bag.
just massage the chicken off the bone, and you don't get your hands.
To preface this, the chicken still has to be warm or hot.
Yes.
You can't have chilled it and then try this hack.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just like massage the bones out of the chicken and like throw on some nice music, light some candles, have a glass of wine, debone your chicken.
I actually tried that. My dog is picky and bougie and will only eat fresh food, so he gets rotisserie chicken a couple times a week.
So to bring it full circle, when you're trying to have meals on the road and you have to be quick about it because you're about to leave for the airport and you need a chicken sandwich, very quick and easy way for travel. So, all right,
that is your random tip of way to bring it back though to travel, Matt. Thanks.
Getting a response.
Anyways, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. Keep an eye out because I think we're going to do a few of these. This was really, really fun. And thank you so much to the audience for participating as well. There was a ton of great perspective in there also. So this will be up on YouTube, recorded. So if you do want to rewatch this chaos, you are more than welcome to do so on the Channel Program YouTube page. But thank you. And we hope to see you guys on the road soon. I will see you next
week. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.